Welcome to the Honest Health Podcast with your host, Jeffrey Burke. Honest Health brings you the brightest minds in the natural products industry, as well as athletes and entertainers. Jeff will keep you entertained and informed while educating on how to be successful on your healthy journeys. Now, here's your host, Jeffrey Burke.
Hello and welcome back to the Honest Health Podcast. My name is Jeffrey Burke. I'm so glad you're here. Today we're going to have an awesome guest. I know you're going to enjoy this very, very much. My guest and I go way back. We have a very long history, and he has done remarkable things in our industry. And I think that the wonderful thing about the way that he brings himself to the industry is he brings such amazing amounts of passion and science. And anyone who has ever worked with Dr. Michael Murray will definitely attest to that as well. If you're tuning in for the first time, welcome to the podcast. Remember, bring your friends. Have them go to my webpage, drjeffreyburke.com. They can tap on the Honest Health logo and go to Spotify. And they can also tap on the YouTube logo and go to the YouTube channel, depending on whether you want to listen or whether you want to watch the interview. Made them both available. And I did it really easy for my 90-year-old mother so she could follow them and just tap things. It was a lot easier for her. So I think I'm finding out from everybody that they're enjoying that. So let's talk a little bit about background of my guest today, Dr. Michael Murray. Dr. Murray is widely regarded as one of the world's leading authorities on natural medicine. Dr. Murray is a graduate, faculty member, and serves on the board of Regents of Bastyr University. He is co-author of a textbook of natural medicine, the definitive textbook on naturopathic medicine for physicians, as well as the consumer version, the Encyclopedia of Natural Medicine. He has also written over 30 other books, including Dr. Murray's Total Body Tune-Up, the Pill Book Guide to Natural Medicine, the Encyclopedia of Healing Foods, and What the Drug Companies Won't Tell You and Your Doctor Doesn't Know. For nearly 30 years, Dr. Murray has been compiling a massive database of original scientific studies from medical literature. He has personally collected over 70,000 articles from the scientific literature, which provides strong evidence on the effectiveness of diet, vitamins, minerals, herbs, and other natural measures in the maintenance of health and the treatment of disease. It's from this constantly expanding database that Dr. Murray provides the answers on health and healing. According to Dr. Murray, one of the great myths about natural medicine is that it's not scientific. The fact of the matter is that for most common illnesses, there is tremendous support in the medical literature for more natural approach. Unfortunately, for many people, they are never aware of the natural approach. They can put them on the road for lifelong health. Dr. Murray has dedicated his life to educating physicians and patients and the general public on the tremendous healing power of nature. In addition to his books, there are cumulative sales of over 6 million copies. How incredible is that? Dr. Murray has written numerous articles for major publications, appeared on hundreds of radio and TV programs, and lectured to hundreds and thousands of people nationwide. Help me welcome my guest. Hey, Dr. Murray.
Thanks, Jeff.
I'm so glad to have you here. I know you and I have this amazing long history, and we did many radio shows over the years together and worked with many of the places that you have been with over the years, and it's really great to have you here.
Well, congratulations on continuing this for all these years.
Crazy,
42
isn't it?
years, 21,000 radio shows.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Amazing.
It's really quite amazing, and I go back and it's been kind of funny because I've been going back and talking to people that did my radio show, and now they're coming on the podcast like yourself. And it's just been so nice to reconnect because the visionaries, the minds and the best minds in the industry, those are the informational guests that I want to bring to the listeners because it's all about information and education. And I'm seeing some crazy things in our industry where some education is not being used as much as it was. And I think that's a missing point in our industry. So we're going to do something fun today.
Okay.
We're going to talk about blood sugar.
Okay.
This to me is an amazing topic. Blood sugar, the state of blood sugar, the risk factors for blood sugar, the categories of people and ages. All of these have changed throughout our careers. And today we're kind of in a situation where a lot of people may not take it as seriously as they should, but I think they need to.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you don't have your blood sugar levels under control, it increases your risk for virtually all the chronic degenerative diseases, not just heart disease and diabetes, but also Alzheimer's disease and cancer. So, very important to keep that blood sugar under control.
When I was younger and I was kind of just starting in the industry, I used to think to myself that diabetes was basically a geriatric disease. You would hear about the type 1 once in a while, but for the most part, it seemed like arthritis and many of the other things that were going on, it was the geriatric category. And that was kind of the way we were basically informed and taught when I was really young, in my early 20s. But it's not that way anymore. There are people suffering with these one-time age-related geriatric diseases today that are much, much younger and maybe even in age brackets where people might think they never would have been an issue.
Yeah, well, we're seeing, childhood obesity and the development of type 2 diabetes in adolescence that we've at a rates we've never seen before. So it's just a continuation of this epidemic of metabolic poor health, and that includes prediabetes, diabetes, and metabolic syndrome, and all of these conditions that are linked to the standard American diet and lifestyle. So we've got to help people get healthier.
Do you think that it is all diet based? Do you think it's inactivity based? Do you think a lot of it are markers from genetics?
Well, we'll get right into it. There was a study that was done in 2006 that was it was just mind blowing. They looked at individual pesticide and herbicides and didn't see a correlation, but when they lumped together what are called the persistent organic pollutants, what they found was it destroyed the standard conventional wisdom that type 2 diabetes was a progressive disease that started with poor blood sugar control, pre-diabetes, and then full-blown type 2 diabetes. And obesity is generally thought as being the primary driving factor. But in this study, they looked at the levels of herbicides, pesticides, and other forever chemicals. And they found something really interesting. They found if someone was of normal body weight, if they had a high level of pesticides in their blood, and this was based on the National Health and Nutrition Survey. This is a government survey where they actually measured blood levels of these toxic chemicals. What they found was if someone was of a normal body weight and they had high levels of these pesticides, they were 30 times more likely to develop type 2 diabetes than someone who was morbidly obese who had low levels. So what the data showed was that that obesity wasn't the driver of type 2 diabetes. The biggest determinant was the load, the individual's load of these persistent organic pollutants. And there hasn't been a lot of follow-up to that study for some odd reason. It's been almost 20 years since that study came out. And yet we see that the epidemic has grown considerably. And the problem with these persistent organic pollutants is they're very difficult for the body to get rid of. That's why they're called persistent organic pollutants. And they accumulate, and they're accumulating in higher concentrations in younger people, and I think that's one of the reasons why we're seeing diabetes affect younger people these days. Jeff, here's a question I try to ask people just to help them understand the magnitude of the problem that we're creating in our world. In North America alone, how many pounds of pesticides and herbicides do you think we're dumping on our crops each year?
So I read this just recently and it didn't connect in my brain. And now that coming back to the actual book I read it in, I just know that the number was so off the chart that I had to read it twice.
It's 1 billion pounds.
It was there.
1 billion pounds, folks. 1 billion pounds of pesticides and herbicides are being dumped in North America each year. And these are called forever chemicals for a reason. So we just keep piling it on. And that's not including all these plastics and microplastics. We're just destroying our world, and the insanity has to stop. It has to stop. We have to start thinking that we aren't going to be able to keep this pace going for much longer, because it's having catastrophic effects on our health, not just increasing the risk for type 2 diabetes, but cancer risks are going up, autoimmune disorders. We've got various neurological disorders. We've got Alzheimer's disease.
Yep.
All of these are all linked together. There are environmental factors that we can't ignore any longer. But the diet is a big contributing factor. If someone's eating a ultra processed diet, they're getting even greater chemical loads, and they're not giving their body the nutrients that it needs to help get rid of these toxic compounds.
Well, yeah, and the food supply today is so empty and so bland and so vacant and so barren. And the food companies have learned how to make absolutely worthless, terrible food taste so good that people actually crave it and they want it so badly. And, as much as you can talk, somebody has to be willing to make a change.
That's true. And, it goes both ways. If you had someone from, even 200 years ago or 100 years ago walk through a modern grocery store, they would be amazed. They'd never seen so much food in one place. It's just that most people are shopping in the middle of the stores and not getting to the produce and in the natural foods area.
It's really funny. I used to talk about shopping the store perimeter, and I actually went to the store last week, and I decided I wasn't buying anything if it wasn't on the outside edge. I was just determined to do this, and I didn't need any staples or things like that or cleaners or anything. So I did. I started the vegetables and the fruits, and I segued to the protein. I made my way to the dairy, made my way to the better quality breads and stuff, and I checked out.
Yeah.
And I got home, and I was like, I felt so good about myself at that moment. I'm just like, you actually did it. And, so I would say my diet's about 90-10. And for the most part, it's a little harder sometimes, but I've learned how to work around it because I'm on the road so much.
Yeah.
Sometimes 2-3 weeks a month. But I've learned I'm not vegetarian, I'm not vegan, but when I'm traveling, I find that those are places that are easier to eat.
Yeah.
And, or go stop by a place and pick up all my own food, take it back to the hotel and have an efficiency where I can prepare it myself, because it's really easy to get off your program when you're on the road and you're busy and you've got 7 or 8 trainings in one day. You're doing a consumer lecture. It's 9:00 at night. If you're not prepared, you're going to just grab whatever you can because you have to have sustenance. But it takes a little bit of work. And I just think that the work part of it is maybe a little hard for some people. And I think a lot of people have that's not an issue. Don't need to worry about it because diabetes is not in my family.
Well, yeah. There's such an issue with the standard American diet. We see that genetic risks are not as important as diet and lifestyle factors. Back in the early 2000s, there was this big initiative, the Human Genome Project, where they were going to determine the genetic sequence and figure out how they could solve all disease. Well, the problem with that is that what they discovered was that our genes are like a computer's hardware. If there's a genetic defect, it's just like there's your hard drive is crashed and your computer's just not going to function properly. And what they discovered was that more important than the genetics, the DNA, were the epigenetic factors, and they're like the software for the DNA. They control genetic expression. And the software in this case is diet, lifestyle, environmental factors, how we think, how we feel. These all impact what compounds our genes produce, and that determines our chemical composition and our level of health. So these epigenetic factors are more important than genetic predispositions. A person can be predisposed to Alzheimer's disease, heart disease, cancer, and if they take steps to protect themselves against developing those disease, they can eliminate that genetic predisposition. On the flip side, someone can be perfectly programmed with their genes to be very, very healthy. But if they are not supporting that good genetic predisposition with good nutrition, a healthy lifestyle, and proper supplementation, I think that they're out of luck. They're not taking advantage of their good genetics.
When I was growing up, I used to go to family reunions, and there would be always this one tent set up in the yard under the trees where all of the older great uncles, great aunts, grandparents, they all sat under this little tent. And you would see the walkers and you would see the wheelchairs and the crutches. And, it just seemed, and you were young, we were kids. And I'm thinking to myself, that is so far away from now. We didn't even think about that. And as I was coming up in the ranks, I was seeing, people still in their 60s and 70s. And all of a sudden, I'm 20 some years into the industry, and now I'm seeing people in their 40s and 50s. And now we're at a point where I'm seeing these 20 and 30-year-olds with all of these terrible health conditions and health problems. And I'm like, the wall has come down. And it's trickled down to all these age groups. And, when we have these conversations, so much of it, per your point, are the choices that they make, and bad ones, really bad choices.
Yeah, I feel really blessed. I got introduced to natural health when I was 19 years old, and I have walked my talk. I am a true believer. I'm probably the biggest health nut in America, and have been that way for almost 50 years now. I'm 66, and as far as my genetic predisposition, I'm predisposed to being obese, not having any hair, and dying in my 50s from a heart attack. It's possible that you can make your genetics better by maximizing your ability to be healthy, and it comes down to choosing the right things in your life. And this includes every aspect of our life. If we make better choices all the way around with our diet, with our lifestyle, in our relationships, boy, it can have magical effects on our genes.
How do you feel about our industry utilizing nutrients to help someone? I don't know if I would say stabilize, maybe I would say more along the lines of help to have a better level of blood sugar in the body. Obviously, we all know the drugs, metformin and Jardiance and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
But on the natural side, should they be used preventively, or are they better used if there's a medicinal situation necessary?
Well, I think there's a lot that we can do to help people support blood sugar levels with diet and lifestyle. That's pretty evident. As far as prevention, that's where it starts. But we can utilize dietary supplements to enhance our physiology. And a few years ago, 20 years ago or so, with Natural Factors, Dr. Michael Lyon and I developed a product called Polyglycoplex, or PGX. And I still think PGX is the most important dietary supplement in North America today. Everyone's now wearing these, not everyone, but a lot of people are into this continuous glucose monitoring. we were one of the first researchers that looked at the impact of various natural products on a continuous blood sugar measurement. And PGX is unparalleled still to this day. We can take people that are on the blood sugar roller coaster and we can have them take 2.5 to 5 grams of PGX before a meal. And as long as they're eating a low glycemic load meal, you're not going to see any impact on their blood sugar levels. And we can literally flatline a person's blood sugar for 24 hours if they utilize PGX before every meal. We also have a number of herbal products nowadays that have a great deal of scientific research. Berberine probably being the biggest in that area. Berberine has been shown in over 30 double-blind placebo-controlled studies, not only to improve blood sugar control, but also to lower blood pressure and lower blood lipids. If berberine was a drug, it'd be the biggest drug of all time because it can impact diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure. Also, it helps with liver health. So, I mean, it's really, I think, the next great superstar. It does enhance the output of GLP-1. You're never going to see a natural product that will produce the rapid weight loss that Ozempic and Wegovy and semaglutide forms produce, but I think we'll see the same sort of results eventually through a collection of GLP-1 activators on par with those drugs. Just like we see, there was this famous diet in research called the portfolio diet, which was a collection of factors that would lower cholesterol. And these researchers that put together this diet showed that it was just as effective as statins. So we're going to see the same sort of result. In regards to berberine, it's been shown to be as effective as metformin in lowering blood sugar levels. It has been shown to be as effective in lowering cholesterol as statins, but it also lowers triglycerides, something that statins don't do. And it also helps to lower blood pressure. So as well as the blood pressure lowering drug. So yes, berberine is a very good natural approach to metabolic health for a lot of people. And there's weight loss promoting effects. So there have now been maybe 6 to 10 double-blind studies showing that berberine can help people lose weight. And the difference between berberine's weight loss and Ozempic or Wegovy's weight loss is that one of the problems with these GLP-1 agonist drugs is that people preferentially lose muscle mass. Mm-hmm. And this is not healthy. GLP-1, just to tell people a little bit the way it works, this is a compound that is manufactured in our intestinal lining by cells called L cells. We showed with PGX that it increases the number of these L cells, and it also increases the output of GLP-1. When our body produces this natural compound, it's broken down in 1 or 2 minutes. Mm. When people are taking these drugs, these GLP-1 mimicking drugs, they are active for 2 weeks.
Oh my.
Okay, that's a big difference. 1 or 2 minutes, 2 weeks. So nature, the way our body is designed to utilize GLP-1 is in bursts, and it activates insulin sensitivity. It helps insulin work better and has some good effects on reducing appetite. But there's some potential negative effects of GLP-1 when it's in excess, and causes a lot of GI issues. It literally paralyzes the stomach. So I'm hoping that everything is going to work out, and it's not going to be, these drugs aren't going to be associated with some big issues, Jeff. But my instincts are that the mechanism of action concerns me. When you have something that is active for 2 weeks, while the natural form is active for 2 minutes,
Yeah.
I think there's usually a reason. Nature has a way of protecting against something that we think is good, but too much turning out to be bad. Cortisol is a great example. Cortisol, we need that. It's great. We need a little cortisol. It reduces inflammation. It has a lot of good benefits, but too much cortisol, which is associated with stress. There's also, drug forms of cortisol like prednisone, and we know without a doubt that too much cortisol, a compound that we naturally produce in our body, is detrimental to our health. And so I think the same thing is going to be shown with too much of this GLP-1, and it's not exactly identical to the natural form, but even if it was, it's a hormone-like compound, and you look at any hormone, and if you too much is not good. So it's going to be interesting. I hope I'm wrong on this one, but my instincts are that it's a big mass experiment out there, and we've got millions of people potentially being guinea pigs to determine the long-term effects of these drugs.
Well, we have such a level of impatience in this country, maybe around the world for that matter. And, it was kind of like when people started having gastric weight loss surgery. They were having the surgery, but they had to go through like a year of psychiatric visits. They had to make sure they were mentally and emotionally ready for this surgery. And that was the way it was. And now people are getting it without a problem. If their insurance will pay or they can pay for it, they just get it. And I think what worries me a little bit along the line of the GLP is that people are using it as maybe a quicker fix, but they're not doing any of the other stuff. They're not monitoring their food. They're not increasing their activity. Right. They're not getting a good amount of rest. They're not balancing their stress. It's just like, I don't need to. I have my poke and I'm done, even though they could be so much more healthy and effective if they did the whole protocol.
Yeah, I think that's not a wise thing to do. You can use a crutch when it's necessary, but if you continue to use that crutch, you're going to see you're not going to be able to walk on your own legs. Or if you have your arm hurt and you put it in a sling, that's important to mobilize it so it can heal. But if you keep it in that sling for too long, you're going to get frozen shoulder, or the muscles are going to atrophy, and you're going to have more problems than before. So, if for people out there, I think I gave a webinar when this wave of popularity started, and I think I should do another one. And what I wanted to do in that webinar was help people identify if they were a good candidate for these drugs. I think they are medically indicated for people who are experiencing significant morbidity associated with obesity, not just poor blood sugar control, but maybe their heart disease, liver and kidney problems. They're being severely affected, and if they don't lose that weight quick, they're going to have a shorter life and put their health in extreme peril. But that's not the majority of people that are using these drugs. It's people that are maybe they only need to lose 5 or 10 pounds or even 20 pounds, and they're jumping on this bandwagon. And I wish them luck. And if you are going to be on these drugs, please use it as an opportunity to change your diet and lifestyle so that you can get off that drug as soon as possible. Because I just don't think I'm concerned about long-term use. And I think that's a reasonable concern.
We talked about some of the natural things, the berberine and some of the things that are out there. People still use chromium. They still use a lot of things for blood sugar. If you're on metformin or you are an injectable, insulin injectable diabetic, can you still do the natural along with it, or do you have to make a decision?
Yeah. So, with type 1 diabetes, we still want to use a natural approach, because you always want to help that insulin work better, so you're not
Mm,
so the dosage of insulin is not high.
got it.
Some of the complications in diabetes is related not just to the elevation in blood sugar, but to rising insulin levels. In type 2 diabetes, especially initially, insulin levels are way too high. Uh, it's just not working. There's plenty of insulin, and then sometimes they'll give is people with type 2 diabetes that their insulin levels start to drop because their pancreas is just overworked and starting to fail. Then they'll inject insulin on top of that. But most of the time, they opt for metformin, and now for these GLP-1 agonists. And if a type 2 diabetic is using natural approaches, they will have to monitor their blood sugar levels, and they will have to reduce their dosage accordingly. And they can work with their doctor to do that. We have great tools now to keep an eye on blood sugar levels.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a fasting blood sugar like it was, or an after meal. We now have 24-hour continuous blood sugar measurement. We have the A1C test, which measures the amount of glucose that's attaching on red blood cells. Since red blood cells live for 3 months, we get an idea of what a person's blood sugar control has been over a 3-month period. So these are great tools to get a glimpse of your blood sugar control. And generally, blood sugar levels can be controlled very well through natural approaches. I mentioned PGX. I think it has to be a mainstay in a person who elects to go with the natural approach. It's basically a super fiber. All the benefits of dietary fiber are amplified with PGX. It's able to bind more water than any known fiber. So it creates a gelatinous mass, and that slows down gastric emptying. It tells your brain that you're full, so you reduce your food intake. It helps with blood sugar control, and it helps with promoting satiety, and helps people achieve and maintain their ideal body weight. And we've had great success both in the clinic as well as out in the real world, getting people on PGX. Again, 2.5 to 5 grams before meals. Berberine, I think it can have significant benefits, but I don't think it measures up to PGX. But I had a diabetes program that I put together, and we ran thousands of people through it, and we found that there were some people that would need a little extra boost, and so we'd use the PGX with the berberine. And as I said, berberine has really good science behind it. Standard berberine, the dosage is 500 milligrams, best taken before meals, so 3 times a day. And that, as I said, that has great clinical research behind it. There's a long list of compounds that also have been shown to be helpful. Mulberry leaf extract, gymnema, these are very helpful. There's a lemon extract, uramin, that has great effects. There's so many natural products that people can choose from, or not everybody responds there's no panaceas out there. So what may work for one person may not work for the next. So if you want to go the natural route, sometimes you gotta keep working at it until you find the one that works for you. But in general, I think PGX, berberine, they're gonna hit the nail on the head in terms of helping people get their blood sugar levels under control. But these are supplements. They're designed to be used in conjunction with a health promoting diet, a low glycemic load diet, low carbohydrate diet. That's really important. Exercise is really important. Handling stress, learning how to get that parasympathetic system working for you by engaging in deep breathing exercises, meditation, prayer, something that gets you
It's
in
a
that
whole
in that in
picture.
that calm state. All these things are really important. So I just encourage people to look into what nature can do for any health condition, including this growing epidemic of type 2 diabetes. I do want to tie it back quickly to what I started this discussion on, and the importance of staying away from these forever compounds. In this study that looked at the pesticide load and correlated it to type 2 diabetes, the source of the pesticides wasn't that people are eating more fruits and vegetables, is that they were eating more meat.
Yep.
And the further you go up the food chain, the more concentrated the pesticides and herbicides are. So if you're going to eat meat and dairy, cheese, whatever, you got to make sure that it's organic and for beef, grass fed, out in the range. That's going to be associated with lower pesticide levels than beef that's fed food that has been sprayed
Doused.
heavily. Just it makes a lot of sense. So as far as compounds that are really interesting that can help get rid of these toxic chemicals, because I do believe you can get rid of them. Sulfur-containing compounds are really important. Everybody's probably familiar from your other shows, Jeff, about glutathione. But there's a compound in mushrooms that's really interesting called ergothioneine. Ergothioneine is a single amino acid. Glutathione is a tripeptide, so it's 3 times bigger. So think of ergothioneine as a small version of glutathione. They share many common characteristics in terms of their health benefits. And this ergothioneine is found almost exclusively in mushrooms. And the interesting thing is, mushrooms have been one of the strongest protectors of our longevity. Studies have shown just even small intake of mushrooms is associated with living longer. And I believe it's probably due to this ergothioneine content. And if you look globally, we hear about blue zones and all, but if you look globally at life expectancy, it correlates to the ergothioneine content of the diet. So this may be what it was discovered as a longevity vitamin.
It's funny. I'm looking at your bookshelf in back of you, and I have every one of those books on my bookshelf because, I've been a fan for a long, long time. Dr. Murray, thank you for being here today. I would love to have you back again. If you want to hear the podcast and you want to turn a friend onto it, send them to drjeffreyburke.com. They can tap on the Honest Health logo. They can listen to it at Spotify, or they can watch the interview and watch this battle of really great white teeth going on here, so on the YouTube channel. So make sure you tune in, make sure you follow and like and all that kind of stuff. Because we really want to make sure I'm bringing you the best minds, the best information, and the honest information that we all need today. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Murray. Bye-bye.
Stay tuned for more information from the Honest Health Podcast with Jeffrey Burke. And make sure to check back often for interviews and conversations from the guests we all want to hear from. I'm John the Announcer. Thanks for listening.